Hello, everybody. Let me continue the success story for Georgia, what Elena already started. And this is a very good precondition for us. Having in the country the successful land registration program for the land consolidation. Very long, Georgia did not have this policy, and with FAO, with the Landnet group, we've been working to have some first initial steps. And today in my presentation, I will briefly introduce what are the first steps we are going to do. And we are also very confident that this big family will help us, so sharing your experiences. Our colleagues from Turkey already did this, and with other countries it will be important. I will shortly overview the existing gaps for the country and some legacy what we had. You know, Georgia became independent in the early 90s, and before country was under Soviet Union. It means that country was centrally, as many of my colleagues from post-Soviet countries know, we were part of big state, and state owned all the land. There was only one land, so one landowner. It means that there was no land consolidation. But we Georgians decided to be independent rather consolidated. That's why after it we started land reform. The principle of the land reform was to give all landowners their own parcel, but it led us to have very fragmented land parcels, and average size was even less than half hectare, 0.25 hectares per family. And even the ownership of this small land was divided, because there were cases when some farmers have the 4 or 5 different lands in remote places, sometimes 5-10 kilometers lengths between. So it increased the cost for the agricultural production for the farmers, and it created additional problems for the government to deliver sustainably and consolidated agricultural policy, because it's very hard, for example, to have good irrigation practices while you have very fragmented land. So you have to fragment your supply of irrigation water or provide the drainage services. Here is the example of one municipality where we had, you see, 560 plots, and after the reform, 26,000 plots, because all the farmers were given the land. The land consolidation, we learned from the previous meetings and very interesting discussions that it is a process that has to be started. But it is a process that you cannot start with an empty place. You should link this process with some ongoing processes. That's why the two important process what we choose is a land registration, what Elena already presented, and the amelioration projects which we all have ongoing in Georgia, rehabilitating irrigation drainage systems in Georgia. So we decided to combine this principle of land consolidation with these ongoing processes. And as you all know, it's without having registered land, you cannot consolidate it. So land registration is considered for us as a very good precondition for successful land consolidation. So I think very important task has already been done. As Elena mentioned, by 2025 we will have finished full registration of the country. It's maybe not similar for many of you, but it's our problem that quite significant amount of land plot is not registered. For example, I'm owner, I know this is my farm. My neighbors also know this is my farm, but it's not registered. And sometimes I have illegal occupation of the land because it was abandoned, or no legal owner, and I decided it is my land and I cannot register it because I am using practically, but I'm not. So registration of the land and categorization of the land is a very important precondition. Regarding amelioration systems, it's important also because we consider that consolidation is precondition for successful irrigation services. Because when you consolidate land, you reduce the cost for delivering this service. That's why we started to somehow merge the processes. This slide shows you how interrelated are melioration and irrigation. Turkey presented a wonderful case when DSI, as a delivery service, irrigation delivery service companies, also merging the consolidation policy. We had good example in Macedonia. So we hope we will have a successful story in Georgia in this regard, because the processes are interrelated. When you identify owners, when you have some feasibility studies, both for the land consolidation, for the selection of the irrigation areas are the same. And also it's very important to prepare reallotment plan and then detailed design of the irrigation scheme somehow to align with the reallotment plan. We think that some issues, some positive trends we already have, because there are some institutional, financial, or legal preconditions that are already addressed or recently addressed. For example, we already have the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture as a responsible entity for the land management, policy, strategy, legislation. We have an APR, we coupled already, and we have lots of joint projects, and the National Public Registry as a entity which registers lands. We just created in 2020, I call it just because COVID period, I think, should be avoided. So it is just established agency, which will be leading partner under our ministry for the land consolidation, and also the municipalities who will be also participating in the process. We have legislation, updated our land-related laws. It's not consolidation-related, but new laws somehow also touch this problem. We have a study tour, or what Elena mentioned, conducted by FAO, and it is like one of the first very good ground for starting and planning next steps. This feasibility study is attached at the link in our presentation, so you can see wonderful presentation, a wonderful study. The issue which was mentioned many times by our colleagues, this is a country's readiness, political will, let's say, to go to this process. It's a very hard process. And in many Georgian, you may meet in our agricultural strategies, for example, that our aim is to have land consolidation. But there was no concrete steps yet identified. And I think the study is like a first step, and also we have very good financial sound ground now in the new World Bank project, which is going to finance the rehabilitation of irrigation schemes. It is planned to have separate component dedicated for the land consolidation. So we have now confirmed our willingness to go to this process. Awareness raising, it's one of the biggest issues. I remember very skeptical words from my colleagues, from some general population. Okay, I understand land consolidation, but what you are going to do actually? Because when we are saying road construction, it's easy to understand. When we are saying rehabilitation irrigation scheme, it's understandable. But when we are talking, we will consolidate the land, what does it mean? What are the actual steps? So several workshops have been conducted and further are needed to raise the awareness and make the people, I mean decision makers and general public, our partners in this project. And we already have identified several plots under the irrigation scheme which will be selected as a pilots for the next land consolidation phase. But further steps are important. I mean, the remaining gaps what we have, it is we have institutions, but they need strengthening. We have land legislation, but we need dedicated land consolidation legislation, which is planned under the World Bank project to be developed. We need this countrywide multi-criteria assessment. I think it was presented, Latvia's example in last meeting, how they did it wonderfully, different colors where we have, they selected the hotspots where land consolidation can be done. Financial, because we have one project, but it needs to be also incorporated in other financial issues. Also state money, Turkey's example shows us that state should be involved, budget money should be spent, let's say, in this process. Further awareness raising and continuing other pilot areas in the country. So next further steps, we listened from the previous session that Turkey is developing land banking system. I think in parallel to land consolidation, first steps, we should also think about this mechanism in Georgia, how to introduce, develop a manual for further actions. It's important to have in place. And also we think that making land consolidation a rollout on the nation as a national program, like we had a very small pilot program for the land registration, and after confirming that it is successful method we rolled out on the nationwide. I think land consolidation should become for the country as a national program. And also, we would like to update periodically legislation. We would like to avoid also further fragmentation. Very good presentation from Turkey in their inheritance legislation, how they make some mechanism not to. So you may consolidate your land, and tomorrow you may also end up with fragmentation. It will be also, should be taken into consideration for us. It's in our further steps. And we think that we should link this process with other infrastructure projects besides amelioration, maybe road construction, maybe it will be windbreaks construction, which we are going to start soon. So this is the steps, what we are planning in the future. We, as I mentioned in the beginning, we made very first steps, and in these very first steps, I think this forum, this family is very important to share your experiences, to show what worked in your countries and what did not work, to somehow choose the fastest way to go forward. And I know, I mentioned it many times that Morten mentions it many times that in Denmark, for example, they have 100 years of land consolidation history. We are a little bit frightened as making first steps, but I think this is a process that should be started one day, without which we cannot go forward. Thank you for your